Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So today I'm going to be taking a look at BT07, and BT07 offers us lots of new and powerful cards to build and iterate on some new and existing decks. And today's deck I'm going to be taking a look at is going to be a new iteration of the Jagamon Hyrule deck, or Gotcha Surprise, or whatever other silly name you want to give it. The whole point is BT07 adds lots of cards that are going to help rig the top of our deck to make Jagamon's ability a little bit more consistent, to be able to digivolve off of the top of our deck for free, allowing us to go up into our level 6s a little bit differently than what you might be used to, and we have lots of very powerful level 6s to try to take advantage of, basically ignoring the fact that we aren't actually going to be paying for its Digivolution cost. So without further ado, onto the deck profile. Starting off with the Digitama, I'm going to be running one copy of Pinamon as the 5th Digitama of the deck. You don't necessarily need to run a 5th Digitama if you don't want to, and it doesn't necessarily have to be Pinamon. I just like Pinamon for that extra card draw ability. So what this card's doing more specifically is its inheritable ability states when attacking once per turn. If you're attacking an opponent's Digimon, then we get to draw one card, so that way we could try to see more cards in our hand to put what we want from our hands to the top of our deck with one of our other cards, so that way we could try to make Jagamon's ability even more consistent, and that's kind of the whole point of what this deck is trying to do, is make that ability more consistent to use. And then as far as the main Digitama of the deck goes, it's going to be 4 copies of Koromon. So green Koromon over here has this nice inheritable ability of when attacking not limited to once per turn, where we get to reveal the top card of the deck and place it on the top or bottom of our deck. So it's essentially scrying from Magic the Gathering, but in this style of deck, it's actually pretty good because, again, it's trying to fix and see cards, so that way we could try to gauge Jagamon's ability to make it, again, more consistent to use, and that consistency is the key on why this is the best Digitama that we have for this style of deck. Next, on to the rookies, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Terriermon. So Terriermon is just that anti-meta card where it has the ability where during all turns the opponent can't gain memory outside of their tamer effects, trying to shut off and limit what the opponent can do with their memory manipulating shenanigans. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Gatsumon. So Gatsumon is another really good card at trying to help line up Jagamon's ability to make it more consistent. So what he's doing for the deck is he has an on-play ability where we get to reveal 1 green Digimon card from our hand, and if we do, we get to place it on the top of our deck. Even though, yes, that's minusing you in card advantage, it really isn't, because you want to use this to set up a Jagamon, so that way you could swing with Jagamon and then Digivolve into the level 6 that you put there, thanks to this Gatsumon, making him a very good card to use to help set up this type of ability that we're trying to trigger. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Betamon. So Betamon is going to be the deck's dedicated digger. What he's digging for is our tamers and our level 4 green Digimon, which are relatively important, so that way we could try to climb the stages a little bit easier. His on-play ability states that we get to reveal the top 3 cards of our deck, add 1 level 4 Digimon or 1 green tamer from among them into our hand, and place the rest on the bottom. So whether we find the Tortomon that we're actually trying to look for, or we're trying to find our tamers to help trigger the Jagamon type of ability multiple times, it's just helping us dig out some of our parts and pieces, and that's all we really need it to do. And then the last rookie of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Palmon. So it doesn't necessarily have to be Palmon, it's just you want something to try to DP boost your Digimon to make them a little bit stronger depending on the opponent's board state. So what this card's inheritable ability states is when attacking, if you are attacking an opponent's Digimon, then this Digimon gets plus 2000 DP for the turn. So the idea is, in case that Jagamon or whatever using doesn't Digivolve into a Mega, then we wanted to at least try to live through whatever actions we're putting it through, and in this case it's more specifically stating that we're going to be attacking the opponent's Digimon. So if they have like a level 5 out, then we're going to swing into their level 5 with our level 5, and then we could use this to ensure that we're going to live, just in case we don't Digivolve like I stated before. Next, on to the champions, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Woodmon. So Woodmon is going to be the deck's dedicated blocker. I know blockers aren't necessarily as good, but we don't really have anything else that we really feel like we want to be running. So this is, for all intents and purposes, a flex spot of the deck, and you could kind of change it up to be something else. but I just feel like having a blocker, at least against certain decks, could help stop some early game aggression to buy us enough time to get into our Jagamon combos. Next, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Kabuterimon. So this is the BT01 version of Kabuterimon, and we're using this card mainly just because he evos for 1. So that's the big thing that we're looking for, on top of the fact that he actually has an inheritable ability for evoing for 1. That's also helping DP boost our Digimon. So his inheritable ability states that during your turn, this Digimon gets plus 1000 DP for every suspended Digimon the opponent has, so it can help DP boost our Digimon, so that way they could live through whatever actions we're putting them through, whether we're attacking the opponent's Digimon or we're attacking their security. And then the last champion of the deck is going to be the most important champion of the deck, and that's going to be 4 copies of Tortomon. So Tortomon here is a very good card because it's another card that's setting up our Jagamon combo to be able to consistently digivolve into our level 6s essentially for free. So what he's doing for the deck is he has an inheritable ability of when attacking, we get to reveal 1 green Digimon card from our hand and place it on the top of our deck. And we get to give this Digimon plus 3000 DP for the turn. So this is, again, trying to set up that whole line where we're going to put a card on the top of our deck, swing with our Jagamon, and then digivolve into the card we literally just put on the top of our deck. So it's not even like we're actually losing a card because, well, the Digivolution bonus will gain us the card back, and we're digivolving with it right away, making Tortomon easily the best level 4 for the deck to be using. And then I've been talking about Jagamon so much, so onto the ultimates. I'm going to be running 4 copies of Jagamon. So Jagamon is going to be one of the key cards in the deck just because, well, the ability of Jagamon is what we're actually trying to take advantage of. So his ability states that when attacking, we get to reveal the top 3 cards of our deck, and then we could digivolve this Digimon into a green level 6 Digimon from among them for free, and then the rest go to the bottom. So this is the whole idea on trying to utilize powerful level 6s, because we could literally go up into them for free with Jagamon just swinging, and we have multiple different ways on trying to make Jagamon swing as safe as we possibly can, even if he whiffs in case we don't have anything to set him up with. And then speaking of Jagamon and trying to support him, we even have, well, an alternate version of Jagamon in the form of Mame Tyrannomon. So I'm going to be running 4 copies of this card because, well, it's basically just 4 additional copies of Jagamon. It has that same exact type of ability where we're going to be swinging with the card and then able to digivolve him right away by revealing the top 3 cards of our deck and being able to digivolve into a green level 6 Digimon from among them. So again, just more copies for more consistency, so that way we could try to use our level 6s in some very powerful ways, and we have lots of very powerful level 6s to combo with depending on what you're trying to use, what you want to use, and what abilities you need to be looking for. And speaking of our level 6s, we have some very powerful level 6s to be playing around with. I'm going to be running 2 copies of Nidhoggmon because, well, he's still just one of the best level 6s that we currently have. His when digivolving ability of Digiburst 4 allows us to suspend all of the opponent's Digimon with 5000 DP or less, and then place all of the opponent's suspended Digimon back to the bottom of their deck. So this is a really, really powerful form of removal. In case you can't necessarily deal with a wide board or certain Digimon, then we could try to suspend them down or catch them suspended and then Nidhoggmon them away, making for a very good card to use, and we don't necessarily care about the fact that we're losing our whole inheritable stack because, well, we got up into him and that's all we really need out of him. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Ancient Troymon. So Ancient Troymon is just another very strong level 6 green Digimon for the deck to be using because we're already trying to suspend some of the opponent's Digimon down, and Ancient Troymon helps continue that trend and actually acts as some extra defense for the deck with his ability where during the opponent's turn, when an opponent's Digimon attacks, we could suspend up to 2 of their Digimon without the blocker ability. So this just kind of shuts down multi-attacking, even though, yes, the opponent can play around it by tapering their attacks with hybrids, it's just still adding some extra defense to the deck. And then on top of that, it has a nice on-delete ability that you could think about trying to take advantage of depending on how you shift the deck around, where you get to play 1 green level 4 or lower hybrid Digimon from your hand for free, so he could potentially replace himself when he dies. And that's pretty good because we do have lots of new green hybrids to be playing around with. And then the last level 6 of the deck is going to be 3 copies of Ebon Wormmon. So Ebon Wormmon, for all intents and purposes, is kind of the main mega of the deck. Again, you could really change out your mega lineup to fit whatever you kind of need it to, but I really do think Ebon Wormmon is a pretty underrated card. So he has a nice when digivolving ability where we get to suspend one of the opponent's Digimon, then gain a memory for each of the opponent's suspended Digimon. So if we're already being able to digivolve into him for free, then it just means we're gaining some additional memory to make some very powerful follow-up plays with. Ordinarily, this is just supposed to make him easier to play, and then on top of that, he has another ability that we really want to try to take advantage of, where during the opponent's turn, all of your opponent's Digimon gain the ability where, during your turn, you must trash one card from your hand to unsuspend this Digimon. So he's actually adding some hand control elements into the deck and into the game, so that way we could try to keep the opponent's Digimon from unsuspending unless they want to lose cards in their hand. Granted, yes, there is the drawback where this is the game of Digimon, and there's lots of different ways that different decks can draw cards, but sometimes they don't necessarily want to lose cards in their hand, and that can still be a hindrance or annoyance for the opponent to deal with. Next, on to the options, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Blasted Disaster. So Blasted Disaster, for all intents and purposes, is just going to be your big suspend option. It could really be any option you want that's trying to suspend the opponent's Digimon down. It's just Blasted Disaster is one of the better ones, just because it has the main ability where we get to suspend all of the opponent's Digimon down, and then gain a memory back for each Digimon the opponent has suspended. So we could potentially make this card cost a lot less if they have a wide field of Digimon out, and that's kind of the whole point on what makes Blasted Disaster really good in the deck, so that way we could try to take advantage of cards like Ebon Wormmon and Nidhoggmon a little bit more efficiently. And then it has the security ability of being able to suspend one of the opponent's Digimon down, which is an okay security ability. It's not as good in hybrid format as some of the other security abilities, but it's still a pretty nice one to have nonetheless, just in case they're actually trying to do something. And then the last option of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Green Memory Boost. So Green Memory Boost is another consistency tool for the deck to use, just because we get to reveal the top 4 cards of our deck and add a green Digimon from among them into our hand, and then put the rest onto the bottom. We could kind of use this in combination with Koromon to know at least what the top card of our deck is, so that way we could gauge if we needed to try to draw it right away with Green Memory Boost. But that little combo aside, it also has the nice main ability of Delay to gain us 2 memory at a later turn after we utilized its main ability to help try to dig out certain cards. Next, on to the Tamers, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Mimi. So Mimi here is really good because she's going to be acting as the dedicated memory fixing tamer. So if our memory is ever less than 3, she'll always hard set us to 3. So that way we can digivolve into Jagamon and swing all in one turn. And then on top of that, she also has a nice main ability that helps us turbo out our raising area to be even more aggressive, where if we have a level 5 or higher green Digimon in play, then we get to suspend this tamer to basically get another raising phase, so that way we could either hatch an egg or move a Digimon out. And then the last tamer of the deck is going to be the main tamer, which is going to be 4 copies of Izzy and Mimi. So Izzy and Mimi is a duo tamer, so they have the nice ability to help us gain some additional memory, where at the start of our turn, if the opponent has a suspended Digimon in play, then we get to gain 2 memory. It's not necessarily hard to catch them with a suspended Digimon because most of the time they're going to attack, and if they attack, their Digimon's going to be suspended, and we have other ways to try to force their Digimon to be suspended and potentially stay suspended. And it even has a nice upside that's basically acting like a reroll for our Jagamons. So it has the ability where during your turn, when a level 5 green Digimon attacks, you could suspend this tamer to reveal the top 3 cards of our deck and digivolve the attacking Digimon into a level 6 green Digimon from among them for free, and then the rest go to the bottom. So basically we get 2 instances of Jagamon's ability, so we have an even higher chance on trying to digivolve into our level 6s for free. And then we still have a whole bunch of other tech and tools that we could try to incorporate depending on what we're actually trying to gain out of the deck and the types of cards you want to be using and focusing on. So we do have Agumon here as just another generic DP booster to help our Digimon's DP to be stronger than the opponent's Digimon. and we have Tentomon from the starter deck to add some extra consistency, just because he's going to be trying to add cards into our hand with his on-play ability that we could then see if it's safe to use or not, or try to rig it thanks to the new Koromon egg. Then on top of that, we have a slew of really powerful level 6s that we could try to run, depending on where the meta shifts, and again, the types of abilities you're looking for. So we could use Mega Gargamon to stunlock one of the opponent's Digimon down to keep it suspended, and deal some extra security damage for them having a suspended Digimon. Then we could use the Green Imperial Dramon Dragon Mode because, again, we could ignore its Digivolution cost in terms of how much memory it's going to cost us, and the fact that this is a very powerful Digimon with Piercing that could also multi-attack for deleting the opponent's Digimon is really, really good. Then we even have stuff like Argamon level 6, to try to be an anti-meta card to try to deal with the opponent's pesky tamers by easily digivolving up into this card and suspending all of their tamers down and keep them suspended as long as we have this card on the field. Then, similar to Mega Gargamon, we have Dino Rexmon to try to suspend the opponent's Digimon down and keep it suspended, and then he's going to be gaining 1,000 DP for each of the opponent's suspended Digimon, so that way he could be a very powerful Digimon swinging into the opponent's security relatively safely with. Then we do have Hercules Kabuterimon from the starter deck for some more piercing, and the fact that his Digiburst ability to suspend the opponent's Digimon down could also come in handy to try to control their field. And then we even have the classic Hercules Kabuterimon as just another really good card to attack the opponent's Digimon with and try to gain some additional attacks for it. Then we even have some level 7s that we could think about playing. I'm going to be highlighting Chaosmon because Chaosmon is a little bit more favored in green decks because of his piercing ability and the fact that we could unsuspend our level 6 after it attacked with Jagamon to then basically get another attack off and try to delete an opponent's Digimon that way. Then we do have a slew of different suspend options. So we have Dino Memory Boost, we have Needle Spray, we have Flower Cannon. There's just a whole bunch of them in case you don't want to use Blasted Disaster to try to just pick one Digimon off at a time. And then we have Hidden Potential Discovered, not so much for our level 6s, but if you're running any level 7s, more so for our level 7s. But we could also use this for our level 6s because all of our level 6s evolution costs are expensive, and in case we can't necessarily attack with our Jagamon, then this is a good alternative way to try to digivolve efficiently into our level 6s. Then we do have some other tamers that we could consider playing depending on what your budget is and what other cards you're trying to use. So we could use Davis to try to help be a little bit more consistent, even though, yes, he is a blue tamer. He also can search out green Digimon and add them to our hand, so that just makes him really good to use in green decks as well. And then if we wanted to, we also have a green hybrid package that we could also use to support the deck with. So we could use JP to give whatever higher level Digimon the piercing ability and have a slew of really solid level 4 hybrids to play and fall back on to also try to help push and close out games with. Not to mention, just using our JP to digivolve into our hybrids just makes our evolution a little bit cheaper, so that way we could try to climb our stages even faster than the opponent might be expecting. And speaking of our hybrids, we even have a slew of different hybrids in our level 4 slot that we could try to take advantage of. So we have Arbormon, we have Petal-Dramon, we have Metal Kabuterimon, we have Beetlemon. There's just a good amount of level 4s that we could use to really try to customize what we want to gain out of our hybrid package. And then we don't necessarily need to run the level 5 hybrid if you don't want to. You could, depending on, again, how you build and support the deck, but we also still have Ancient Beetlemon as another really good Ancient to fall back on, just because we could digivolve into him for free off of our Jagamon abilities, and we don't need to worry about anything else about the card, and just use him for being a very solid level 6 Digimon to be playing around with. He does have that ability to try to support hybrids with his on-delete ability, same with Ancient Troymon, making him a good choice if you want to build like a hybrid Jagamon style of deck. But for the most part, this is just my interpretation of Jagamon High Roll or Gacha Lottery, or again, whatever silly name you actually want to call it. But the whole point of the deck is trying to rig the top of your deck to use Meme, Tyrannomon, and Jagamon to be able to Digivolve into our level 6s for free and efficiently, and green has lots of very powerful level 6s that we could use in various different combinations just because, well, we're green and it isn't necessarily hard to get into our higher stages with. And that's kind of the whole point, is this is just an alternative way to try to get into our higher stages with it even faster than the opponent might be anticipating, with various different ways, thanks to BT07, to try to rig the top of our deck to make the ability more consistent than it's ever been, making it actually somewhat viable. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and down in the description below are a couple of different ways you could support me and the channel. So I do have a TCG Player affiliate link, so when you use that link to buy cards off of TCG Player, then some of that money will go to supporting me and the channel. I also do make and sell playmats over on Overcard Gamers on Facebook, so when you buy a playmat with my design, then some of that money will also go to help supporting me and the channel. And on top of all of that, I do have a Twitch account over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, so giving me a follow and a subscription also helps support me there, and I do play Digimon on top of various other games on that platform as well. So thank you everyone for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.